I have been doing this talk show for over 4 decades, both radio and television, right? And we talked about this decades ago, about dads staying at home and mom being the breadwinner and going out and working. Now, the first time that we started talking about this, oh, no, it can't be that way. Why not? I know some dads that are absolutely fantastic at taking care of kids and the whole 9 yards, and some moms that are like, they shouldn't be doing this, okay? So it doesn't make any difference. They're both mom and dad. They both care for the kids. So let's talk about this thing about stay-at-home dads. And we're going to talk with a stay-at-home dad and find out how he feels about it and how it all came about for him. Stay with us. It's Poppoff, and we do.
He isn't much in the eyes of the world. He'll never make history. No, he isn't much in the eyes of the world, but he is the world to me. My dad. Now here is a man.
Okay, how many of you, really counted on Dad not only to be the breadwinner, but also something much more than that? Well, we're going to be talking to a stay-at-home dad. So how does society look at this situation with mom being perhaps the breadwinner? Well, it works just fine for Andreas Wilderer, or I should say Wilderer, author of Lean On, the 5 Pillars of Support for Women in Leadership. And he says it does. It works just fine. And what about the kids? How does it work for them? A lot of questions, so let's get some answers. Nice to have you with us, Andreas.
Thank you for having me, Mary.
Oh, you bet. Anytime. Okay, 2019, and we're still questioning whether it's right or not for a stay-at-home dad. That's ridiculous. Why not?
Why not? But actually it is. So you hear it all the time, dads do babysitting. No, it's called parenting, everybody out there. Dads do parenting too.
And it's the greater good for the family. It doesn't make any difference who's making what. It goes into a common thing to keep the family going, period.
Yes. There is no responsibilities attached with the gender. The women can go to work and earn the same money, and the dads can stay home and take the same good care of the children as the moms did for years and years.
Again, does it make any difference to the kids, to be honest with you? As long as they have a parent there that cares, right?
It does a little bit make a difference because of how their friends see it and what they experience with having a stay-home dad at home, but not for the love or what it meant for them to grow up in the family.
So how many kids do you have?
I have 2.
2. Boy and a girl, or?
A 12-year-old boy and an 8-year-old daughter.
Ah, gotcha. Okay. So when did you make this decision? Was your wife ever a stay-at-home mom, or was she always working?
She was always working, and when we got together, she was making more money than I did already at this time. And then when our son was a little boy, we moved to the U.S., and I was not even allowed to work. And so I had to stay home as a stay-home dad, or there was no other way. So I stayed home, and by the time I was able to work, I didn't even want to go back. So I stayed home and kept raising the kids.
Amazing. Where did you come from?
Germany.
Germany, okay. Now, how would this have been accepted in Germany?
Only a little bit more. They are a few years ahead of the U.S., I would say. You can see it on when I was a fresh dad, we had changing rooms getting into the German restaurants, and now over the last 2-3 years, you hear it in the U.S. that, Pampers put changing tables in men's restrooms in the U.S. So you see a few years behind, but they are not there where they should be yet.
Gotcha. Okay. So now, what does your wife do? What kind of work does she do?
She's a CEO for a water company, and she is more or less traveling every week. The kids only see her on the weekends if she even comes home. So
interesting.
It's during the week.
Oh, that's amazing. Okay. Now, do you do any kind of at-home work with a computer or anything, or are you strictly a stay-at-home dad, period?
For many years, I was strictly a stay-at-home dad. And then I started to, or during that time, I volunteered as firefighter, as dog trainer, all those things, or as sports coaches with the kids. And now for several years, I do strength finder coaching and leadership coaching from at home or travel, take my kids on the travel sometimes. So while they are at school, I have time to work.
Amazing. Now, how did your kids adjust to that?
They are only used this model. So it was so funny when my son was 2 years old, we picked up my wife from work, and he suddenly saw all those men coming out of the office building. And he looked at me and said, Dad, do men have to work too? Because for him it was always mom's work. That's what's normal. Dad, stay home.
Wow. So what, in your advice, because you've been there, done that, and have been doing it, what kinds of questions should a husband and wife sit down and talk about before they make this decision?
So many would say it's all about financials, and I say that's not true. Financials play a big role. Who makes more, and can we afford it, or should we do daycare? But it's more about, is the man up to it? Can he maybe redefine his masculinity, that he is suddenly not the breadwinner anymore? And also, is the woman up to it to say, okay, I'm the main breadwinner suddenly? I still have respect for my husband, although I make more money than he does. So this open conversation and still being able to have respect for each other and knowing where you want to go, what are your goals for the next 5, 10, 15 years, that's the bigger decision to say who should stay home or not.
Do you ever think about, when the kids are grown and they're, out on their own, whether they go to college or married or whatever it happens to be. So it becomes, we always talk about the empty nest syndrome. Have you ever thought about what you're going to do then? Because, they're getting up there.
By that time, I hope, yes, I have thought about it, and I have my plan, and I hope to reach this goal to be a full-time coach and do a lot of advertising for stay-home dads and going out there and helping couples get together and make the right decision.
People don't realize, well, I'm sure the moms do, but it's not that easy a job. It's not just taking care of the kids. You become chauffeur, psychologist, nutritionist, shopping expert, and a whole bunch more stuff when you are staying at home, whether it's mom or dad, right?
It is. It's a job with many hats, or a job description as long as a full dictionary. That's what you have to do. And I think the hardest part of all those is you never have off. If you are going to work, you can work as hard as you want. When you come home to the family, you can say, okay, I'm done working. When you are staying home, either mom or dad, stay-home moms have done that and are amazing in doing it, you are on the clock 24/7.
Sure.
And
Absolutely.
This is the stressful part, I think, for moms and dads who are stay-home dads to never get the time off.
And, that is something, it's a completely different subject. But to be honest with you, you need to talk about that no matter who stays home. Because, so many people, I'm going to have children. Oh, yeah? Well, did you ever think about the responsibility you're taking on and what you're going to have to do? And like you said, 24/7. It doesn't end when you come home. Even if you've worked all day, you still got to prepare the kids, still got to bathe them, still put them to sleep. But we don't talk enough about the responsibilities that go along with it, do we?
I don't think we talk enough about it. I think it's one of those topics we say, okay, that's only for moms, and they can talk under each other, but as society, we are not talking enough about it. What an important role moms and dads play in the life of our children and in the life of society. Amazing. If the kids are raised well and are good citizens, it reflects on our society as well.
You bet. Well, yeah, I'm going to tell you something that I've said on the air before, and I'll continue to say it because I really believe it. You know, we license all these different, we license businesses, we license doctors and lawyers and whatever. The one job that I think, in my opinion, is one of the most important things in the whole world, and that's raising children. We should license parents before they have kids. I mean, there's got to be some kind of test that says, hey, look, you may not want to have children because you're not really going to be really good at it. Instead of everybody should have it because that's what society says you're supposed to do. You're supposed to raise kids. There are some families that should never have raised kids, don't you think?
Sometimes, yes, but I would say before we start licensing us, I would more say let's try to help us more and give us more the funds and more the spotlight on people who are struggling with parenting.
Yeah. And talk about it even before you get married. I don't know if you did, but I did with my husband. And we discussed whether we wanted to have children, because one might want to have children, another one might not want to have children. And that's a terrible conflict for the kids when they're in the middle of that.
Yes. Yes, so we discussed it and we said, yes, we want children. But having not had this conversation, I see a lot of people, like you said, who had not had the conversation and did not talk about it before and then suddenly are in trouble because he or she wants something else. And it's not that there's a gray area, okay, let's have a half kid.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. Now, when you became a stay-at-home dad, how long have you been doing it now? Like since they were born?
I'm doing it for 12 and a half years now. So
okay, 12 and a half years. So are the responsibilities any different for a stay-at-home dad than it is for a stay-at-home mom?
I would say no. The stay-at-home dad has to do all the same responsibilities than the mom did. Maybe not the breastfeeding, but still the feeding. But he might get a little bit more put on the plate when we talk about the house, because the honey to-do list will still be in his corner most of the time. Mm-hmm. So he gets this. On the other hand, it's that I see it a lot of times that the household will be divided a little bit different, that the woman, even that though she is working whole day, she comes home and helps out more than maybe some normal working dads do.
Gotcha.
But in general, I would say the responsibilities to raise the children are still the same.
Yeah, and I mean, it's like, and I understand exactly what you're saying, because guys are kind of into being Mr. Fix-It, you know. So some of those responsibilities still are part of what you do every day. You know, if something breaks down and and not everybody, because there are some people that are handier than others, but it is kind of rolls over to dad doing it. Not all the time, but dad's kind of there. And as a stay-at-home dad, you'd probably just do it and be done with it. It really doesn't matter who does it as long as it gets done, right?
Yes. And even if it's not doing the couple, but let's do it as outsourcing, and let's have a cleaning lady come in. If nobody wants to clean and nobody feels like it, let's have a cleaning lady. If that helps the relationship, the family, to say, okay, we are not fighting all the time, we can outsource all kinds of jobs in between.
Gotcha. But I think there has to be, maybe at the very onset of this whole thing, before decisions are made, there has to be a mutual respect of the marriage. And it doesn't matter who's doing the work and who's doing the kids, or who's staying home and who's going out to work. If you respect both of those jobs equally, I don't think you're going to have near the problems. What do you think?
Yes, you are right. Sometimes what the problem is when we don't have children, we don't see all the work, and we can just imagine what it's going to be being a parent suddenly. So it's a great concept to start as early as possible talking about this and thinking, do I want to do it, or can I imagine myself? And I sometimes just call it educated guessing. I did an educated guess that stay-home dad is something good for me, and it paid out.
Gotcha. Now, you also said in your book, it's vital to empower your partner. What do you mean by that?
I mean by that if we say I'm the stay-home dad and I'm raising the children and I'm running the household, my wife gives me the keys to the house too, so that I'm not micromanaged by her because she would like it to have it a little bit different. What I see a lot of times, and that's unfortunately so, that she goes to work and still arranges the play dates for the children and puts the stay-home dad into a role of just, here, honey, is the list what you are supposed to do today.
Oh.
And so if those models sometimes don't work as well, and if you see it more and more working in a good way when he is really empowered to do it how he wants to do it, raise it with sleeping schedule in the way he wants to do it. And the other way with the empowerment is also the other way around. If she has to work on the weekend, if she has to work in the evening, he needs to be okay with it and just support her and say, here, yes, I empower you to do everything that's necessary for you to get your work done and be good in your work.
You know, I'm so glad you mentioned that because I've spoken to some women because I have my husband and I have been married coming up on 49 years in January. And
congratulations.
We never even looked at the idea of who does what. It's just whoever gets home first, do it. Get it out of the way. He's much better. He does the laundry. He does the vacuuming and and dusting when we need to have it. I help with that sometimes. Whatever happens to be done, and whoever gets home first. Now, he happens to be retired now, so he does a lot more. So, but I get so upset when sometimes I hear women on the air and they go, well, you're very lucky, but I couldn't let my husband do that. Well, why? Well, he doesn't know how to do this, or he doesn't know how to do that, or it's not the way I want it done. Well, then shut up and do it yourself. Stop telling people what to do. Does anybody judge you on how you do something? If you want the help and you want to share the help, then stop judging each other. Both ways. It goes both ways. I hate it when people judge other people. They do it the best they can. Be grateful. That's it. Be done, right?
Yes, the results are counting, and there's this European saying there are many roads to Rome, so it doesn't matter what way you go as long as you arrive at the right point, and that's the same with if he does it a little bit different or she doesn't want to, she wants it different, the results count. And that's in couples that have less problems and are happy, you see this a lot more, that they just appreciate the results and not the way how we got there.
Do you ever have other men talk to you about how could you let your wife earn more than you? Which is stupid, but do they do that?
I had a lot of those conversations. I had a lot of those, oh, you got the better deal. You are sitting all day on the couch and drinking beer. And the bad ones to say, aren't you man enough to be able to provide your family by yourself?
Oh, gosh.
And
Are
I
you
say,
kidding?
Yeah, shut up and go away, please.
Yeah, that's the best. You can't, with those kinds of people, you can't argue. It doesn't make any difference. They have a mindset that is set in granite, and it's never going to change. But I'm hoping a lot of this does change because it doesn't make any difference. As long as those kids have a mom or a dad that can take care of them, or both of them for that. Even if both of them work, and they can still be dedicated to their family, you just have to juggle a little bit more, right?
Yes, I'm absolutely for having both work, and that's a great concept too. And that even that when we say a lot of support, women in leadership or executive women, their husbands work too. But many of them step a little bit back and stop going on so many business trips to support her. So this role of being a stay-home dad is one part, but we can support the females in the workplace much more by doing all other stuff for them too and supporting them where we can.
In my big fat opinion, that makes you more of a man than the one who goes, oh, I can't have my wife doing that. Why? You know, what? In other words, you're less of a man because your wife is doing more? That's ridiculous.
Yes, that's this redefining of masculinity that needs to take place, or is already taking more and more place.
Yeah.
How many years was the Marlboro cowboy man, this ideal man, that's how you need to be, and those pictures changed over the generations. So, and redefining masculinity is one of the keys to saying, yes, we as society are okay with women going to work, and we are okay with men suddenly supporting their wives as stay-home dads.
Yeah. Well, you know, and times have changed, for heaven's sake. But when you really look at back, you know, agriculture on farms, everybody did everything. You know, it wasn't mom only making breakfast and then sitting home waiting to make lunch. No, she was out in the fields too. And everybody chipped in. The kids chipped in. Everybody chipped in. So now, do your kids ever get questions from their peers at school?
We had a lot of those, and I would say the most dramatic, or the one that shows it the best, was the neighbor kids came always over on Saturdays and wanted to play with my son, and he said, no, I don't want to play because mommy is home. For him, it was great that mommy is home because he hasn't seen her for 7 days, maybe.
Aww.
And so he wanted to stay home. So here are the other neighbor kids who don't know about this situation much or don't think about it. And suddenly in school it was like, oh, he's such a mommy boy, he doesn't want to come out.
Yeah.
And so until we had to explain to them, hey, that's a little bit different. It's not that he's just a mommy boy, but mommy is not here. So it's more like, I want to play with my dad. Like you guys would say, I want to play with my dad.
Yeah.
And so it was for them suddenly, okay, we understand it.
Yeah.
The parents helped, the teachers helped to get it in, but so those kinds of situations are over and over again with the children, that they just have to start standing their own men and say, okay, I know the other kids don't know our situation. We are a little bit different.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting because when they have the parent-teacher meetings at school, obviously your wife, I'm sure, goes as much as she can.
She's never been to one.
She hasn't been to one. Okay. So how do the teachers respond to you?
At the beginning, always a little bit strange, or it was a little bit strange, that they only heard from me all the time, and my wife never responded to anything. But they soon picked up on this, that, okay, this is a changed roles family, and I have to, he is going to volunteer at school, and I will only talk with him about the grades, and so they adjusted very well to it.
I'll be darned. That's amazing. Now, do you have a website?
I have a website. It's called leanon.info.
Okay. Leanon.info. And the book itself, Lean On,
yes.
Where's that available?
It's on Amazon and on Barnes & Noble.
Do you get a lot of questions on your email, and website that other dads are asking a lot of questions and saying, hey, maybe this is for me?
So I get a lot of those, and I also organize mastermind groups, so where we put dads together who are in the same situation so they can start exchanging ideas or their problems and having this peer-to-peer coaching. So there's a lot of resources on my website, and also I'm trying to work with a lot of stay-home dads, supporting husbands and dads, and even with the wife.
Fantastic. Well, you're doing a great job, Andreas, and it sounds like your family's doing just fine.
Yes, thank you so much.
Absolutely. Well, look forward to keep us posted, okay?
We will do.
All
Mary,
right.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Keep up the good work. It sounds like you're a great dad.
Oh.
Take care now.
Bye.
Once again, that's Andreas Wilderer, Wilderer, author of Lean On, The 5 Pillars of Support for Women in Leadership. And it's support for your family. It's all about family, not necessarily about each one individual and what they want. You have to do what we want and what is best for you.